Oh my goodness. It is 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're listening to WZNC LP Bethlehem, North Country Community Radio, 99.9 FM, and streaming online at nococommunityradio.org. This is North of Normal. I'm your host, Amanda McKeen. This show exists because there are so many amazing, fascinating, interesting human beings here in the North Country, whether they're from here or they're now living here or they have some kind of connection to this place. This show is a space to share stories and perspectives and passions and really celebrate the humanity that's here. I'm your host. I told you that, Amanda McKeen. Let me just, since that just happened, let me just give a little disclaimer here that I am overcoming Lyme disease. I found out I had it a week ago, and so I'm on medicine. I think we caught it early, but it is definitely challenging my clarity of thought. So I'm here. I'm here with my guest, Adhi Two Owls. I'm so glad to have you back, Adhi.
Oh, yeah. So nice to be here.
Yes, this is part 2 for all of our listeners. She was here. She was on the show back in September. But I was telling Adhi before the show, I'm like, hey, like, I'm here. I promised I would be here. I can't promise that I'll be able to hold thoughts and questions in the same way that I normally do. So if you're listening, thank you. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for listening beyond my flaws today. And Adhi, you know, you and I were having some conversation already and just kind of talking about one of the first things that people want to talk about is your name. And you know, we talked about it in the first episode, but I think it's good to revisit that because there are people listening that maybe didn't hear the first episode.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
well, I encourage people to listen to the first episode because it's a much longer story. But I will say that in my work and in my journey in my life, you know, there came a point where, well, let me just kind of talk about why people change their names. So there's a lot of ideas around that, but it's about moving through a threshold, like an initiation into a new aspect or new cycle in your life. So for me, it happened in North Carolina when I did a ceremony that changed my name, but I had the discovery part of finding my name, what I wanted to be called. And Two Owls comes from the work I was doing shamanically and with the teachers, indigenous teachers that I was working with. So I was gifted with owl medicine, which is it's about clarity and discernment and seeing through the dark and women's energies and just like all the sort of like truth telling, like speaking truth to power kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when I first was gifted owl medicine, I didn't want to take it on because I wasn't ready to deal with my own stuff, because that's really where it starts. Like, all of this stuff is about adjusting yourself to be a better human being. So I was kind of like, nah, not this time. No. And that was shortly before 9/11. I was living in Connecticut, and then after 9/11, I decided to go down to North Carolina to study with somebody, and on my way down to North Carolina, I was gifted with owl medicine again, and I sort of said, okay, I will take this on. I sort of surrendered to that process, and life kind of got torn apart, and I got torn apart, and I had to reassess and reevaluate myself, and you know, part of it, you know, seeing in the dark is being truthful and being honest with oneself, and these are all the hard things that a lot of people don't often get to confront and navigate and figure out. But during that process, I met another teacher who began this process of initiation and moving me towards changing my name, changing into this. Let me clarify, you're not changing. There's no, like, I didn't, like, suddenly become somebody new. I just became more real in who I was. Like I recognized more of my own humanity, which I think is really important. So I had a ceremony, and I didn't feel very different. It was a nice ceremony. It was a lovely ceremony. It was beautiful ceremony.
What was it like? I can't even imagine what that.
So we went to a place where like it was like up on a mountain. So not a tall mountain, but I was down in western North Carolina, and it was up along Mount Pisgah in that area. And we lit a fire and a candle, and there was some singing and some drumming, and saying the name and doing some other things that I really can't talk about because it's ceremonial, but just to let you know that there's a process.
Okay.
There's no bloodletting or anything weird like that.
I wasn't thinking that, but thank you.
I always like to clarify.
Okay.
It's like, it didn't get weird. But when I finished, I felt it was a beautiful ceremony, but I didn't feel like I had changed. Like I felt like, but that was in April. And then in August that year, I was at an event and I was giving a talk, and I left the talk, and there was like this thunderstorm that was blowing up, and drove through a torrential rain, and I got about 6 miles from my house, and I was coming around a slow blind curve, and I realized it was about 8:30 at night, and I realized the car coming at me without its lights on was in my lane, and I swerved, and I skidded, and I went down the side of a mountain, and my life didn't flash before me or anything weird like that. I just became incredibly present.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden the world was very real to me, but I also surrendered to the fact that anything could happen to me in that moment. I could die, I could be injured, I could be hurt, whatever. I just completely surrendered to that. And the truck rolled and ended up landing on its passenger side, but I wasn't hurt. So the first thing I did was I touched myself. I was like, I'm still real. And then it's like, I'm still real and I'm not hurt.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like when that was like my initiation. So part of initiation, the idea of initiation, is that something happens to us that changes us, so we are no longer the same. So, in different traditions, coming of age ceremonies, like in the Judeo-Christian, we have like, Holy Communion and the other one when you're 13. I can't think about that.
Like
confirmation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you have these different, the Baptist tradition, you get baptized when you're, so there's ways that we use initiation in different ways, in different capacity, but they're all the same thing. It's like you become something different, and you're usually brought towards knowing yourself better and your relationship to your community better.
Huh.
Yeah.
I like that, how you connect that to be the same process. Mm-hmm. It's just celebrated differently.
Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating. I mean, like, human beings, I think we have like what I often call necessary delusions in some way. Like we all think we're different, which is not true, but we have this delusion about it. It's like, they're all different. But really, we're all seeking the same stuff. We're all seeking some kind of deep connection to each other and some kind of meaning in our lives. And also, we want to believe that there's something magical out there, bigger than us, that loves us no matter what, unconditionally.
Yeah.
And I think those are the sort of threads that we navigate in this world.
Yeah. I do know. I was just having a conversation the other night with my boyfriend and saying how, it just feels like we're all part of this massive wave, and I'm just a drop of water in that wave. Mm-hmm. And there's just something that we're all moving in unison, but we don't really realize it unless we step back and see it from a different perspective.
Well, and I also think society right now is in a really strange place. Like, we've been cultivating an individualist kind of, like, bordering on narcissism in some ways. We're on the spectrum of it.
Yeah.
But we're living in this, like, the individual has to be able to do it all, be everything, have it all, from money to fame to, economic success, perfect family, all of it.
Yeah.
And we have to do it by ourselves, and that is so unintuitive to how human beings are, like nature isn't like that. Nature is this collection, this ecology of complex things. Everything has value and everything contributes to the ecology. And because of that, we have forests and we have like the oceans. We have all these wonderful spaces.
Yeah.
But we're in this place where we're conditioning ourselves out of that connection. Like one of my teachers used to always say, there's a conversation happening out there and we've decided not to be a part of it. And our job is to insert ourselves back into that conversation. Huh. So, so part of that is listening, and part of that is also just kind of learning the language of it, And I think there's extra pressure now because of AI and how that's, saying it can take everything that makes us human and do it better. And I just don't believe that.
Oh, man, that's a big topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're talking about nature. Mm-hmm. It reminded me, just the other day I was driving somewhere and I saw this turkey that was all by itself. Mm-hmm. And, when I saw it, I thought, where are the rest of them? Mm-hmm. Not like, oh, that makes sense that turkey's by itself,
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. And I definitely have had conditioned myself mm-hmm. previously mm-hmm. to, like, be that individualistic mm-hmm. person and not need anybody else. Mm-hmm. And this morning is a great example of how that's changed because I woke up and there were men on my roof and and outside the window of my bathroom.
Are they superheroes?
And part of me was like, oh, how am I going to do this? I'm like trying to rest and I try to stay relaxed and like I need to not be stressed out. I'm trying to recover here. And I'm like, well, I definitely want to have an updated roof. Like so I appreciate what they're doing.
Right.
But I was thinking as I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, I'm like, maybe I should ask people in the community for help. And as I was contemplating that, I got a text message from someone in the community who said, hey, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I wrote back and I said, I'm not great. Here's the situation. I think I need to be somewhere else besides my apartment this week. Mm-hmm. And this person said, hey, I have a place you can stay for the next 24 hours.
Nice.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, if I had still been in that mindset of, I need to do everything myself and solve every problem myself, mm-hmm. I wouldn't have said anything. Mm-hmm. And I certainly then wouldn't have been blessed mm-hmm. with that person's mm-hmm. openness and generosity.
I think there's like this generosity, like I think we are generous, and human beings are generous and kind and gracious, and we want to help. I mean, I think that's part of our human nature.
Yeah.
And like when I was traveling a lot, excuse me, I felt that in almost everywhere I went. So I've traveled in all of the lower 48. I haven't been to Alaska and Hawaii yet, but I've been in every state.
Nice.
They're all different.
Yeah.
But there's also like I never felt threatened, or like if I needed help, I always like someone would help me. So I always felt like, and like kindness is always there. Like people are always willing to help you. Some like New York kindness is a little different than Texas kindness, but flavors.
Okay.
But it's
flavors.
Yeah, but there's always like people are always willing to help. If they can help, they will help. Like I think people want to do good in the world, and that has always encouraged me. Even in the worst, like when it just seems like the world is kind of in a weird, funky place.
Yeah.
I just like my faith in humanity is always, we will get through this and we will rise above it. But but then like circles back to like owl medicine and seeing through the dark and through the delusion and recognizing that there's something deeper under there. And
what flavor of kindness is here? I'm curious how you would describe it.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good question. I just think everyone is pretty friendly here. I mean, I think small towns tend to be like people want, because you bump into people constantly. So there's probably little skirmishes that I don't know about, probably don't want to know about. But I think most of the time, I think people are genuinely we want to know what's going on. We want to know who our neighbors are. So I feel like that kind of kindness here. And I think most of the time people want to help out. Like, they want people to do good.
Yeah.
I think there's a sense of that. And I think because we're up in the North Country and we live in a place where winter never ends. I woke up with frost on my roof this morning. I think there's just something about survival and looking out for each other that's here. That's important. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Is it's hard here. Mm-hmm. It's not just the seasons. It's having a business here.
Oh my God, yeah.
So hard.
Yeah.
There's other elements. Mm-hmm. There's other challenges.
Well, and I think economically it's we're in just really really far north. I don't think people realize how far north we are. Mm-hmm. And we're I think we're probably the biggest city up here in northern New Hampshire, right? I think everything is really south of the notch.
I mean, I like to think of it that way, but I live here, so it's probably impacting.
Well, big is relative, because big like New York City, no. but I think relative to where our location is, we're I think the biggest.
Okay.
Biggest, but it's also as having lived in different places, and having a business up here requires really thinking outside the box, because I think it's a delusion to think you're going to get all of your economic support from your local community. It's just not realistic. And that of course has always forced me in other situations, and even here now, to go places.
Yeah.
Travel, So.
Are you still teaching at SUNY?
No, I'm not. The academia has gotten a little weird these days.
Has it?
Yeah. Well, between AI and budget cuts, and I'm not quite sure what the future is in the economy right now. It's all kind of. A lot of adjuncts, we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs, wondering if anything. I mean, because I teach in the humanities, that's even less so
necessary.
Yeah, and I don't think people really understand what's going to happen with AI. There's so much. I don't think people realize the scope of what AI might be taking away from just the general, they can scrape all the art they want, they can write all the code they want, and all of that. But what that does is that displaces people.
It does.
And that's, to me, why, and I don't understand the end game to that. I don't necessarily want to, we can go into the weeds of that a little bit, but, but we don't have to. But just I think it's something we need to all be very much aware of, and resist it if it does take that kind of darker turn.
Are you seeing that already happening in art?
So. I think so. I mean, they call it AI slop, and we see it everywhere, but it's more than that. So, if you put something up on the web, they're going to scrape it. Scraping is when they just grab as much information, mm-hmm. They feed it to these large language models. And then, the large language models have this in there, and then you put an input, and then it'll spit out whatever information it has. Now, it doesn't, AI doesn't think, so I just want to be clear about that. It computes. It tries to figure out the best resources of information to pull together an answer for you. But with artists, it can render an image using your style, and I didn't give it permission. And they might, and people pay AI, but they don't pay artists who AI has been trained on, or writers. So there's that craziness, of trying to protect your copyright, your identity. So
That's a tough place to be in, because you're trying to, you need to market yourself as an artist, and so you've got a website and you're trying to show, but at the same time you don't want to.
Right. And it used to be, okay, so, my art was, my competition might have been, because I do like, I paint and sculpt and draw, but I also, make, leather goods and different things. So, your competition is like, maybe it used to be somebody chained to a chair in China or Sri Lanka, right?
Yeah.
That was the competition. And now the competition is this unseen, unknowable sort of algorithm collection of ideas and bits of information that can render something instantaneously.
Yeah.
And somehow they're validating that as being like the next step for humanity in art. But to me, art is like the language of humanity. Like, we've been doing it for like 65,000 years or more. I think we're finding out it's much older than that too. And humanity has always made art, has always done something, from, figuring out how to fire clay to make pots and how to mix pigment to put on walls to, Renaissance painting to, all the stuff that we do. I mean, human beings make art.
Yeah.
And to say a machine can do it, to me, just robs us of who we are.
Absolutely.
So there's this idea about, like, when colonizers came to the Western world here, and they did all the horrible things they did to the indigenous people here. One of the things they knew is that if they took away their language and took away their culture and took away all of their complex societal references and connections, that they could control them within a generation. Like, you'll never get it back fully.
Yeah. And
I see a very similar thing happening with AI.
Yeah.
Like, it's stealing the things that make us who we are, that give us our humanity. Yeah. And if we allow it to take away a generation's worth of art and music and culture and etc., I don't think we'll like the results.
Yeah. What are you doing to kind of stand against that, I guess? What can you do?
Well,
besides just not use it?
Well, I don't use it. I did for a while. It's good for, like, writing rubrics and giving you an outline. It's a tool. If it's used as a tool, it can be helpful. But I don't anymore, because these companies have also become pretty dodgy, so there's that issue, like not being able to trust the companies that are doing this. So. Yeah,
and the U.S. government wanting to have data.
Well, and have data and using it for weapons of war or directing weapons of war, to me, is problematic.
Yeah. It's not just artists that AI threatens to make obsolete. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of jobs out there that are disappearing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think of bookkeeping as one. There's just so many different things that people used to do that just roles are disappearing. And I remember the last company that I worked for before I went out on my own, I was the operations manager. And I remember the CEO of the company just saying that they weren't going to replace me, that they were going to use what they had. And I know what that meant. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I heard a little bit. It was like, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing special that I brought to this.
I think that's the thing that cuts the most. It's like suddenly, like, if you want to feel like so completely devalued,
right?
It's like a machine can take over my world. Like,
yeah.
That's just like so. And I think. Like the Industrial Revolution that kind of happened, at 1700s, and then, and then with the .com, and like we've seen these things shift and change over time, but I just feel like it threatens even more now, I
think that's true, and I think, even with the presence of social media and seeing how everybody can create content now, and suddenly there is this competition for attention in a way that we've never seen before. How are people finding... I realized this when I took a break a couple weeks ago from screens for a whole week. And it was like, what's my value as a human being? How do I even know what that is right now? If I can't, reflect it on social media, or if I can't, do whatever on it digitally, where am I getting my self-worth from? And I think, whether it's social media or it's people who just live and breathe their work, it's the same thing. Like, if somebody lives and breathes their job and they find all of their value in that, and suddenly their job has become obsolete, that's a scary place to be for a human being.
Absolutely. And I mean, and even like in my own work, like as an artist, I am not a content creator. I am an artist, but I have to use social media, because if I don't use social media, I vanish.
That's right.
So it's this weird little dance, of like keeping the algorithm happy, but also like not losing the integrity of my creative process. And it's like that validation. I mean, we used to, do more social things, and I think after COVID, we've been forced more towards our screens, and we've not reconditioned ourselves out of it as much. But I also want to say, like, right now, in my own work, I'm probably more seen than I've ever been, and people want physical things. They want to touch things. They want stuff that's original art. They want... So I think there is a pushback with all of this. I think, there is that, like, this is definitely taking over our screens, and, AI slop, whatever, all of it, the noise of that. But I think there's something happening inside of people. Like, they want to have a real world. They want to own stuff. They don't want to subscribe to stuff. They want to have music that's on a shelf as opposed to just streaming Spotify or whatever. Right. So I think there's a human need to touch and connect, to be visceral, to be tactile in the world, and I think that's pushing back against it, which is good. That's
good to hear, because I think you would see that more than I would. My work is online, so I'm not being exposed to who's needing those tactile things, and you are. And speaking of tactile things, you brought something today.
Yeah, I did. I brought something.
So our listeners just have to listen.
So this is so I make a lot of stuff with natural materials, and I really like sound. Like, sound is one of my... I mean, I love visual arts. I love being able to see and do all of that. But to me, sound does something. Like music when I was a kid, and my foray into playing instruments, and then my work in making indigenous instruments, etc. So what I'm holding, I don't know if Amanda wants to describe it, or I'll describe it. So,
well, I can, and then you can correct me. Okay. All right. So it's like a bunch of shells, like white snail shells, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're all tied by a cord, and then there's beads on the same cord, and then they're all connected to this, like, it's an antler or something. It's like I don't know, is it deer?
It's an elk antler.
It's elk, okay.
And then the top is a piece of driftwood.
Okay, and it's really smooth, and this actually looks like a little seal face.
It is.
Really? You did that on purpose?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's this part that says something in Latin.
So that actually came from drum weekend I was at down in Pennsylvania, and that was on the elders. So that comes from a tradition out of Brazil, from the what is it called? The samba tradition. So these are ribbons that are tied to drums and things like that.
Oh, okay.
So we had this on the elders' table, and we had passed out at the closing ceremony. Everyone got a little piece of ribbon. So, so I like sounds, and I'm always experimenting with what sounds can be and where they take us. So I think most people have had an experience where you listen to a piece of music and it just transforms you and just, shifts you in some way. And so for me, my exploration with percussion instruments like this is to find sounds that move people and shift people's consciousness and their awareness, get them more inside their body, etc. So, so these little shells come from the Maine coast.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're called dog periwinkles.
Dog periwinkles?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're all over. I actually was just up in Maine this weekend.
Yes, you were.
Collecting more. I have a friend of mine who lives in Arundel, and I go and I visit her.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, and how this happened, just, this process isn't always straightforward. Like, I'll go and I'll go, wow, those are really cool shells, and I will collect a bazillion of them. Because, and I will sit in my studio for sometimes an ungodly amount of time. And then one day I'll get up and I'll go, and I'll just pick up a few and put them in my hand. That's how this process, and I was just shaking them in my hand going, I really like that sound.
Huh.
And I said, and then I began to sculpt, because to me, part of it is so how do you create the thing, so the process. And then I had this piece of elk antler, and so I had to drill holes in it.
Yeah. And
then tie the strings through. And then I found this piece of driftwood, and it kind of looked like a seal head, and I put it on there. So it's kind of so in the Celtic tradition, they have the selkies, which are the shapeshifters.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that's kind of what I was thinking when I was doing that sort of selkie energy. So, yeah.
It's really cool. What do you actually call that thing as a whole?
It's a shaker.
A shaker? Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, my naming is not very original.
All right, so you never saw this made anywhere else, and you were just like, hey, I'm going to create this thing that my brain decided.
Yeah, and that's just kind of how I work.
Cool.
Everything to me is a construction. Everything is you build it from what you have. And I think that's part of how our ancestors did it. They just kind of, said, well, what if I do this? Or what if I try that? And I think that's part of what makes the creative process so interesting is it's about being curious.
Yeah.
And sort of saying, well, what would happen? Now, of course, things do blow up and accidents do happen, but for the most part, we get a little further along the process of sort of understanding our world around us. It used to be, as our hominid ancestors, lived in the dark and didn't have fire, and were terrified of what was in the dark, But then we got fire and we could see in the dark, and then, and that sort of kept, everything opens our world up further, And I think we live in a time where our curiosity needs to be stimulated. We need to be more curious about each other, but also everything around us.
Yeah.
Instead of sort of saying, I don't know who they are, so I should be afraid of them. I should go and say, hey, let's go have lunch, or let's go do something, or listen to the birds outside, or all of those things. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's to me the world is just such this cacophony of experience and sensation, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. Did you see the moonrise photo, the new one from the Artemis strip around the moon?
I don't think so. Is it recent?
Yeah, so Artemis is the spaceship that they sent around the moon, which is part of the whole. So the whole new revisiting the moon. So back in the 70s, when I was younger, much younger, I think first grade or second grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was, and I remember us all filing into a classroom and looking at a very fuzzy black and white TV, watching moon stuff.
Right?
Nice. But I remember the photograph. I think it was National Geographic cover. Was the first time that we took a picture from the vantage point of seeing Earth, rising above the moon. And so now, Artemis goes and does its thing around the moon, and it took a picture of the moon again, in more detail, and it just it reminds me of how fragile we are. Mm. I mean, we can believe in aliens and there are exoplanets and whatever. I mean, that's all. But the bottom line is we're this ball of water and earth and cells and trees and all kinds of stuff, and there's nothing quite like us anywhere else within our sphere. If there was, we do not have the capacity to communicate with them. We do not have the capacity to go visit them or them us, unless there are wormholes and things like that. We can get into the sci-fi of that. And actually, Brian Greene, the theoretical physicist, was talking about how in string theory, it's no longer strings, it might be wormholes that are holding the entire universe, and I'm still trying to process that. So that's another deep dive. Bring it back. Bring it back.
Remember, Amanda has Lyme disease. We can't talk about those things.
So anyway, where was I before I got lost in the wormholes of space? Oh, Earthrise.
Thank you.
Right, in the moon. But here we are, we're on this planet, and we grew up out of the soil of this planet, over the billions of years, or whatever you believe, long Earth, short Earth, deep Earth, whatever. But we're here, and everything about who we are is about being related to this planet. Mm. So even when we go up to the space station, it affects our body because we don't have gravity.
Yeah.
So our whole physical constitution is based on our relationship to Earth, and what we do on this Earth. So
interesting.
Yeah.
You were talking about curiosity a couple minutes ago, and I love that quality, and I love that as a topic of discussion. Mm-hmm. And I know what it feels like. When you're curious, it's expansive, and things are open. And it's usually kind of similar to a feeling of hope. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how to remain curious during times of despair, when there's loss, when there's pain. It's really hard to be curious. That feels like a closing in,
Well, I think so. Part of it is that dance with grief, because when there's loss and despair, we grieve because we had something in our life and we loved it, and now we miss it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that is a time to go in. I think that is a time to explore what's happening inside of us, because mortality tends to help us. I think moves us towards thinking about how precious our life is.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as being something that prevents us, but it's part of a cycle of order and entropy. So there's so when we grieve, it gets us in touch with all of those things inside of us that want to be curious, that want us to ask the questions, that don't want us to waste each precious moment that we're given. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we live in society, communities in our societies that support that process of grief, getting in touch with those things, and then expanding out into curiosity. Because I think that's a continuum that has to play out all the time. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a one and done. I think it's something that happens all the time in our lives. And I think the idea of despair, when things are really bad, there is a moment where we we oscillate or vacillate between, wanting to live and not wanting to live. I think there's that place when we're in that, like when we really question meaning and purpose and desire and all the things that make us who we are,
Yeah. What do you think healthy communities provide for people to go through that process?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a healthy community recognizes that there are going to be people in places of crisis and in places of abundance or success, right? And there has to be a way that all of these things weave together where everyone feels supported wherever they are in that process. Like, one of the teachers I worked with many years ago used to say, a society is only as healthy as the sickest people in it.
Yeah.
So if you have homeless, if you have drug addicted, if you have people who are not healthy, then there's something wrong with your community. You're not taking care of the people in your community. We just live in really complex societal structures right now, and we've compartmentalized the elderly or the mentally ill or whatever. So we tend to put people in boxes and then, marginalize them or barely take care of them. And I think that's something we're wrestling with right now. It's how do we take care of our communities? How do we find the financial abundance of things we need? And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack with that. But I think mostly people just need to remember to be kind. We don't really know what people are going through. We don't know what people are suffering. We don't know if someone's grieving or if someone is taking care of a family member. Like we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And to assume that their bad day is their personality trait is not really, doesn't really serve anybody,
Yeah.
I mean, I know I have bad days, and some people unfortunately have been on the receiving end of my bad days, but also to recognize that inside yourself and to apologize, to make amends, to make it right. But we're very unforgiving. Society is incredibly unforgiving right now, and I think that's part of the social media stuff. It's like, if you make a mistake, like everybody's in your business, everybody like thinks that's who you are, and we grow and evolve. I mean, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, or even last September.
Right.
Yeah. You're a different version of yourself today. As am I.
Yeah, so to not allow people the grace of growth and evolution, I think is part of what heals society and makes it better.
That's the quote right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like we're so harsh and we need to be less harsh.
Yeah.
Gentleness.
Yeah, and I think, with everything being on social media, it's so easy to just unfollow or unsubscribe. Like it encourages you to react, right? It's called a reaction when you do an emoji.
Right.
And so you're being encouraged to react and not to actually take a step back and respond, which is completely different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're being encouraged to be reactive people.
Right. It's like what is it? Like people call it reptilian brain. It's like social media is the reptilian brain totally stimulation machine. It's like but yeah, it's true. It's absolutely very true. We are conditioned to just react and not discern and think and pause and listen. Like listening is a really big thing I don't think we do enough of.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So speaking of reacting, you have 3 fur babies, right? 3?
Yes, I do. I have 3 fur babies.
Yeah. I know we talked a little bit about them before, but I definitely wanted to talk about cats today because despite your description of a cat lady the last time you were here, I do identify as a cat lady. And I think...
Well, I adore my cat. So.
Yeah. So, how are they doing? There's Fiona, and I don't remember the other ones.
Victor and Alice.
So
Fiona's my oldest. I've had her for 10 years, and she's my familiar. But she's not well. She's been struggling, and I'm not quite sure how much longer she's going to be in the world. I'm a bit sad by that. But she's not in pain, and we're taking it one day at a time.
Yeah.
And then the other two are siblings. And like when you have like more than one cat, there's like the dynamics in the house, so everything is sort of like everyone knows their place, everyone knows their role, and then when there's shifts in that, everyone starts like trying to figure out where the power dynamic and where the power is. So Fiona's she's the queen bee, like she's the queen. I know she's not so queenly, and her power is stepping back, and Alice like is total Game of Thrones. She's like, I have to constantly tell her, do not stalk her. Your time will come. Yeah, and Victor's, he's surfer dude. He's just like, more treats, please. That
sounds nice.
They're very fun. I love them.
Yeah. They've probably played a really important role in your life.
I love having cats. I love animals in general. Like if I owned my own place, it would be a zoo. I'd have everything. I mean, when the world is really bad, I go, I just want to get Highland cows and go live somewhere and raise Highland cows, and you all can just like figure that out. But we live in the real world.
Yeah.
And I love my cats. I love them in my studio. I love that when I travel and I come home and they're there, so they anchor me in good ways. And sometimes I like my cats more than people, but
Sometimes.
Well, there are days.
Yeah.
The only problem is they don't make coffee, and that's if they could just like make coffee.
Oh. I feel like I've said the same thing about William Wallace.
Yeah.
Do you have... Okay, so I recently got a little, like, kitty cam.
Really?
So when I'm away, I can watch William.
Oh, my God.
It's amazing.
So does he interact with it?
He did the first day, and then he kind of clued in and realized that I can talk to him through it. And he realized after that first day that it was not mommy, and he ignored it after that. But initially, like, I wish I had recorded it, which you can also do. He gets right up in front of the lens, and he's looking at it and licking it. And,
oh, wow.
It was just really funny. But I can watch him now.
Oh, interesting.
And at least make sure that, he's not sad. And every time I went away, there was always this feeling like I'm abandoning him, and he's probably crying right now. And what I realized is that he is not crying. So it was the best gift ever.
Well, I've had that experience with my phone when my cats were staying with other people, and I would call and they'd put me on speakerphone, and the cat would come up and start rubbing the phone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you don't have a camera?
No, I don't.
So you don't know if they cry or not when you're gone?
Well, I know Victor has separation anxiety.
Does he?
Yeah. So I know that about him. Because like when I got home yesterday, he was just like he was like on me, would not leave my side, like was just like, like on me. Alice takes a little longer. She's kind of mad that I go, and Fiona just is happy I'm back. Like because she knows the drill. She knows she always comes back.
That's nice. Yeah. I love animals. And you were telling me that you have like photos of all your previous cats.
Yeah, well, they should have all their past relations on the wall if I have family members on the wall. They should know their relatives.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Well, to me, it's like, there's so much a part of my life, and I don't have children, so they're kind of my kids, so there's, but I also think there's like the idea of relating and communicating and being connected to not just other human beings but just all beings. And I'm just so fascinated by, like, recently there's this, they've been studying the sperm whale language, and decoding it, and they might have actually figured out what the language is.
What they're saying?
Yes. And that, and because of this, we might be able to talk to them. Isn't that like the most, to me, that's like the most exciting thing about being curious, and just we could talk to sperm whales maybe in the next holy moly. Yeah. What would we say to them?
What are they saying?
Right.
Wow.
And I don't know, I'm on a tangent now, so
that's okay. It's a cool one.
So there was a photo of the birth of a sperm whale, which we've never seen before. So when the sperm whale is born, it can't use its tail yet because the blood has to uncurl the flap, the fins in the back.
Yeah.
So the mothers get under it and push it up.
Oh.
So they keep pushing it up and pushing it up. And then this particular video, which was shot with a drone, they also said there was all of these porpoises and other mammalia that showed up and were kind of around the sperm whale matriarchs during this birthing, which and of course, we don't really know why they're there, but it's a big thing. They have feelings. There's this, but yeah.
It's a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're talking to each other and they understand. I mean, I think elephants are similar. They that whole, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we just had Mother's Day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious how you approach that day.
My mom lives in Connecticut. I call her and we chat.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Mother's Day is, to me, I mean, I think to give birth and to be a mom is a really amazing thing. I made the choice not to for a lot of reasons, but I also think being a mom is a huge choice, whether you make it consciously or it happens and you decide you're going to walk that path, so I think that's how you get here. You don't get to this planet without coming through a womb of some sort. So, that's kind of how it happens. That's the doorway in. So I think it's really important that we honor women and that process, but also recognize the autonomy that women have to take care of who they are and make those choices themselves. So yeah.
I don't know if you heard Barbara Emmons' episode. She talked on air about not being able to have kids, and then she adopted her son. And what happened after that episode was just so beautiful. I ended up writing a blog about it and revealing that I can't have children either. And then after I shared that, more women kind of reached out and were like, hey, I chose not to, or I can't either. And there's just this, everybody relating to each other, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. But I also, I feel I like the idea of being the kooky aunt or the person, being a teacher, being able to work with kids, because I think we need good role models. We need people to just, the village thing, we all need to show up to bring in, one of my aunts used to say, we import babies, but we need to be able to export healthy adults out into the world. And I think that's a process of everybody showing up to make that happen. So
yeah. Well said.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. It's like a mic drop situation.
Well, I mean, if we want the world to be a better place, we are the ones. Like I tell people, if we're unhappy with what we're seeing, then that's a sign for us to take action.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to reflect or pray or do whatever, but the next step is action. Do something. And not be afraid to fail. Because I think we're so afraid to do the wrong thing. It's well, nobody's told you're going to get it right, the first time. But if you don't practice, if you don't do something to see where it's going to lead you, you'll never do anything.
Yeah. And I kind of despise the concept of things either being right or wrong. Mm-hmm. It's so like closed in that situation, and there's room for more than that. Well, there's room for something being helpful for some people, and not everyone.
Right, but I also think like people think like the all the good stuff happens in the extremes, and I think that's just like that's so wrong viewed. I mean, all the good stuff happens somewhere in the middle, like with all of the sort of gray area subtleties. It's like that's where all the really I think useful things happen. Occasionally, something on the outside will springboard something, but most of the hard work, like where the rubber meets the road, happens in the middle. Everyday people showing up and doing something, and their willingness to show up,
in the middle. I think I'm probably a recovering all or none person.
I think I've had those moments where it was like my world was very black and white, very one thing or the other. And I think the more I age into whatever I'm doing, I feel like I'm more open to just meeting people where they're at, and just wanting them to know that like they can just be who they are. Like I'm not gonna judge them, and I'm not gonna tell you can't believe this or do this. So
that's good. It's hard to do that sometimes because you get so influenced by however you grew up, and there's a lot of like former constructs that you're always kind of fighting against.
Right, and I think that's I mean, it's family of origin stuff is that keeps therapists in business. It does.
I bet they'll be in business for a while. Although I did hear somebody say that they use AI as their therapist, and I'm like, no, please stop.
That's oh my God.
Could you imagine?
It's part of the delusion, and I get it. I get why, because if you're lonely, you're desperate, and we make sometimes poor choices. But I think,
there is a part of it that I agreed that was good, was that the act of even explaining the situation to somebody or something else is actually therapeutic. You're declaring something.
Right.
You're speaking it. And that's part of healing, is being able to talk about it.
Right. I think there's power in being witnessed, to be able to sort of confess who you are in that moment, and know that you are seen, So.
By a bot. This was a good conversation. We have 3 minutes left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I really appreciate you coming back for part 2. I kind of like the part 2s because we've already got out of the way the origin story.
Right.
And now it's more of like whatever's on your heart. And it sounds like some really important things are on your heart lately.
I've been. Well, it's interesting because it's coming up on a year since my partner transitioned. And so it's been interesting. I said I would grieve a year, and I've been giving that sort of. So coming towards the end of that, I'm like sort of assessing my feelings and stuff around that. So that's been interesting. And then work has just been like. I'm kind of everywhere down in Portsmouth with shows. I'm in the process of building a sculpture for the Franconia Art Walk, and
that's awesome. When is that going to be available? No pressure.
I think everything's supposed to be set up sometime in early June. So that's kind of I think there's that. I'm teaching watercolor stuff over at the Littleton Studio School. I'll be vending at the National Women's Music Festival in Wisconsin in July. Where else? I'll be vending at the Elders Gathering at the Sunray School in Vermont. So I have a bunch of stuff going on. So it's all good.
Yeah, and you were recently at the League of New Hampshire Craftsmen too, right?
Yeah, I have stuff at the shop. I was doing a demo down there, but I sell my books through the League, so I have stuff there. So I have stuff at Ren also, and Ren is such an awesome place. So they're very supportive of all of us entrepreneurs and artists. And
people. So. Very cool. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to come back. It's really cool to see, how it's just a different vibe than the last time. Mm-hmm. Last time felt a little bit darker, and maybe it was the place because we were in the basement of the previous location.
Right.
But it does feel lighter today. And,
it does.
And I like that.
Yeah, me too. It's spring. There's actually some leaves on the tree.
Yay!
And I was down in Pennsylvania, and everything was in bloom and green and pollen and the whole 9 yards. And I drove back up into a snowstorm. I was like, well, I do live in the North Country.
I chose to be here. Right?
There are reasons why I am here.
Yeah. Well, listeners, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. You are so appreciated. Just want to remind everybody that you're listening to WZNC LP Bethlehem, North Country Community Radio, 99.9 FM, and we're streaming online at nococommunityradio.org. Thank you so much for being here. When you choose to tune in and listen, you are helping keep these types of conversations alive. The real ones, the very human ones. And that matters more than people realize, especially in a world that is, more and more AI slop, as Adhi said. I do want to ask you guys for something that I've asked you for in the last couple weeks is that we're coming up on almost a year of North of Normal, and I really appreciate getting feedback from you about this show. If there's certain conversations that landed for you or certain guests that you really liked, or if you have a guest that you would like to see on this show, please send me an email. You can reach me at amanda@clearviewadvantage.com. Or you can send me a message on social media. I am there as well. Even just a quick note would mean a lot. And if you want to catch up on past episodes or you want to share one with a friend, you can always find them at clearviewadvantage.com/podcast. This has been North of Normal with Amanda McKeen featuring Adhi Two Owls. I will be back next Tuesday with my next guest, live from 10 to 11. Until then, stay grounded, stay curious, and stay a little north of normal.